pick up here as we hop into Champion Select, then if the pressure's on, he might go in for a second game. Who knows?
It was very interesting in yesterday's series where they brought on Flame and then he played Rumble in a lane swap, which sounds exactly like Chonju, better known as Akon's main role. He was always the best top laner at making the most out of the least resources.
Yeah.
Samsung Blue were the kings of the lane swap, and then bringing in Flame and lane swapping, it was a bit interesting.
Yeah, a bit of an odd choice, but as the bans do come through, M3 going to take off Thresh straight away. PYL getting a lot of respect for that pick. Of course, one of the most talented and cerebral Chinese players here, and I think that he could stand up to even the best in the world as far as a support player. But Rek'Sai taken off the board as well, and TBQ or Xuan's Rengar also off the table. And this is one that you were talking to me about earlier on, is the Kassadin ban is super important because everyone wants to be on that card.
Yeah, we've seen so much Kassadin in the LPL, Kassadin bans, Kassadin first picks. The interesting thing to me, though, was that in yesterday's series against OMG, they left Kassadin up twice. It was snapped up for mid lane twice, and Wayless, one of the most praised Chinese mid laners, was given an option to counterpick that Kassadin twice and wasn't able to do it. So to give a respected mid laner counterpick twice and not be able to deal with that champion, it makes sense this time to say, okay, we've tried it your way, let's ban it out and see what else is out there in the champion pool.
Speaking of what's out there in the champion pool, there have been a lot of gigantic picks that have escaped this banning phase. Na rings a bell. Lyssandra's there as well. Janna is available. There are so many high priority picks still available, and LGD looking to lock away at least one of them for themselves, but it'd be interesting to see whether Na makes it further through the pick ban phase, as looks like it might do yet again.
Very interesting if we do see the Rumble locked in here. I mean, it makes a lot of sense. Akon is one of the oldest and most respected Rumble players in the world. A fantastic Rumble player. Even when Rumble was out of the meta, Akon would see Rumble bans come against him here. So while I understand that, of course, the lane matchup between Rumble and Na, it's not much fun for Rumble. You take a lot of free auto attacks. You struggle in that lane. Often going to be a lane swap. And this is more a situation where, okay, LGD can say, whatever you throw against us, it might be the Aurelia that they're mulling over here, we can put Akon in a lane swap. No, he'll do fine. And in fact, one of the big victories we saw against LGD in the series against EDG, it was all about Koro on Rumble, roaming the map, using that level 6 power spike, and being happy to lose a lane quite comfortably. If you can make that Rumble work, if you can organize an amazing equalizer combo, it can be worth it.
Certainly can, as we do see the bottom lane locked in from M3 here as well, and Love City back on that Annie.
I'm gonna hold you up here. Remember, this is M3 we're talking about here, so it's not often that
he learned his lesson, though.
I mean, I didn't expect any Annie picks in the LPL this season. I thought that was a champion that had kind of fallen away. But to even say the words on this broadcast, wait for me here, Atlas, Annie flex pick.
And it's not even an Annie mid-bottom lane flex pick.
No, it's the standard Annie support top lane flex pick. Just what we see. Hashtag LPL things coming out here.
Only in China, ladies and gentlemen. But we do have the bottom lane already secured here by LGD. That's going to be Janna and Sivir. Of course, Imp playing the heck out of Sivir when we first saw him picking that one up. And a really high priority pick here, as well as Candy hovers over a Vladimir that I don't necessarily feel is going to be a guaranteed locking, and way less going to be taking away that Lee Sin. So very standard jungle pickups here, and Candy thinking about a second last round Na pick.
I'd be very surprised not to see...
Oh, wow.
Look at the champions that have fallen through this draft. It wasn't a few weeks ago in the LCK. Oh, we were about to talk about it here.
Oh my goodness.
An embarrassment of riches in terms of picks available here. They could have gone for the Lysandra Na, which has been called the insta-win draft, right? If you can take a second round Lysandra Na.
We saw CLG do it over in the North American
and we
LCS.
saw it in the LCK Monte Cristo, anointed as such. But this is Dade right here, and Dade Zed available. But the counterpick's available to Wayless right here. It's a very difficult lane matchup against Lysandra. There's just so many things to talk about here. This is the sort of exciting series we wanted to see. We see trademark champions, Akon's Rumble, Dade Zed. This is going to be a crazy game.
It is certainly going to be a crazy game. And if this Lysandra does get locked in as well, it's going to be a difficult lane. But PYL going to lock in the Cassiopeia. So, to be perfectly honest, this game is already the best that we've seen in the LPL
And I can
so
see Pastry Time fist bumping in the background, just because This is one of his favorite champions, and this is a really favorable champion of Wayless. Wayless tried this. It was the Kassadin versus Cassiopeia matchup against EDG. He did great in lane, because of course once you start hitting those Twin Fangs, the damage really stacks up, and the trading there is very strong. In the team fights, though, we struggled a little bit. It was the really tanky build. A lot of Ages into Seraph's Embrace, into the Rylays. They're all about tanky control mage, so you can be in the front lines. But if you mess up just a little bit, if you let the poison drop on that Cassiopeia, the position's just so difficult in that champ. That's why we don't see a lot of it ever since the great old days of Ocelot's Cassiopeia many moons ago.
Many moons ago indeed, and so mechanically intensive on that Cassiopeia as well. You need to know exactly how long you have on that poison, as you mentioned, and you've also got to weave in the Qs while you're also hitting all of your Twin Fangs as well. So making sure you really get all of these abilities working out for you is how you make this one work. And I have no doubt that Wayless is going to be able to do it, but it's going to be brilliant to see. And against Dade Zed, of all picks as well, is going to be ridiculous. But if we have a look down the line of M3, their teamfight wombo is terrifying. I mean, they've got Looper on Nah, who's just arguably Mega Gnar is arguably one of the strongest team fighting champions in the game. Plus, you've got Tibbers there as well, and the Cataclysm's coming in.
We've got so many things and we've got so many things to talk to, but I think we have to go to a quick break and get into this game.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We are onto the Rift with our first Cassiopeia matchup as M3 takes on LGD. Of course, M3 on our blue side, LGD on our red side. As already the trades of damage to come through in the mid lane, but it's a decent shuriken coming from Dade for a fair bit of damage onto Wayless.
So many different things to discuss, and of course most of them we'll get to as this matchup goes on, as we see the love taps between Wayless and Dade in the mid lane here. You know, these are two mid laners who really, I think they believe, they read into some of the hype they read about themselves. They're very confident players.
Oh, yeah.
To see these two battle it out on some of their more trademark champions is just a sight to behold.
It really, really is. And Wayless has a tough task ahead of him to deal with the slipperiness of a Zed. And of course, you do need to be landing these skill shots. And who is harder to land a skill shot on than the old Zed, apart from, you know, the likes of a LeBlanc or a Fizz or something silly like that. But Looper versus Akon here in the top lane. And these, of course, two Korean top laners that are very used to going against one another. Of course, both from Samsung lineups. And we'll see how comfortably they fall back into the motions.
One factor that I think we'll revisit as this game goes on, Dade and Zed as a champion is always going to want to split push once he gets that Blade the Ruin King and starts getting the armor penetration going. My question that I'll throw out to you here and the viewers as well is that who on this LGD lineup is going to be able to stop Zed in a 1v1? Traditionally, Rumble struggles to do that just because he lacks so much CC, lacks the control there. Wayless on Cassiopeia arguably can do it, but he's gone for the Ignite here, and he doesn't traditionally fit an early... as we see a bit of damage coming out. He doesn't traditionally fit an early Zhonya's Hourglass into his build. So as the matchup goes on, I just want to see who is going to be that person to stop the split push.
And we'll see whether it's actually just going to be map movement around from LGD, whether they can put pressure on enough so that they can even stop the split push entirely. We'll see whether that's going to be the option, but not entirely sure, as we had a cute little start here. Looper and Love CD going to be doing that Gromp and then sending a Gnar level 2 into that bottom lane. Not even going to use that teleport because, of course, that wave going to take a while to crash into the turret. And Imp just hanging out on his own here on this Sivir, free farming this lane.
Absolutely, and it's going to be the lane swap as we expected, but I wasn't actually planning on a blue side lane swap initiate. It could have just been a case of calling bluffs or just a really complicated level 1 here, but we've resulted in the expected lane swap. Rumble always does fine in these lane swap situations. He was changed many moons ago to stop him from being able to free farm with one Electro Harpoon. Takes a nice burst of damage from Love CD here, might even back off, but he'll do just fine. And of course, Gnar has a ranged auto attack in what is, at the moment at least, a 1v1 lane matchup. He's going to be pretty much free farming in the bot lane.
He is. Looper not quite level 3 yet, but is halfway through that level and has a gigantic wave. As the Living Shadow going to come down to do a lot of damage onto Wayless, but of course now that Wayless is level 3, does have a lot of damage potential if he manages to poison Dade here. And with the change to Cassiopeia, she just scales so well into that late game. Of course, once you get 6 items, you can get up to approximately 1,400 ability power, which is just ridiculous.
It's all about that passive and the effects it grants. So, of course, eventually adds up at 500 stacks of passive towards the 30% bonus AP. Much the same flavor as the Rabadon's Death Cap, of course.
Stacking with it as well, which is just silly. M3 have got themselves a little bit of a gold advantage, so this lane swap working out in their favor thus far, but can't really discuss this sort of thing because it's slightly trivial as we come into this stage of the game. The Miasma going to help Wayless farm out these creeps in the back line.
Ruo has snuck into the bottom lane here, and of course, and he does have a lot of CC from level 1 onwards.
She does, and Ruo probably in here unseen as well. We'll see whether Looper does give anything away, which of course looks like he's not going to. Very aggressive is Imp here in the bottom side, and very patient are the members of M3.
Looks like Imp's wondering, why is he taking this trade with me?
Yeah, potentially. Ooh, and they're moving down. Imp's very far forward. There's the flash, but a brilliant spell shield. The Wallop is going to lock down Imp, and there's the Boulder Toss. The immediate teleport in response, and there's the heal. Imp looks like he might get away, and the teleport has come in. Acorn turns it around. Love CD falls down for first blood, and Ruo, they're trying to escape Looper as well.
Wonderful teleport rotation coming out from Acorn right there. You wouldn't expect anything less from the rotation master, the lane swap king and Acorn. Of course, the turret on top's going to take a lot of damage, but he's already equalized his CS disadvantage. He's gone and roamed and picked up a kill, and suddenly things are looking really good for LGD.
Absolutely beautiful, and that spell shield needs to be commented on again because that was after the Incinerate came through. Made sure he dodged out of exactly what he needed to, as we can see right here.
Wow, wonderful spell shield. And they have to use so many resources just to apply one CC. He even waits out the Ignite, gets full effect of the heal, and there's just no range damage to be able to go on him there. And of course, Annie, what's she to do against a Yordle in a mech? Dies.
Yeah, you can die. Blood. You can certainly die. That is something that you can definitely do in that situation. Candy and Acorn now just facing off against one another. Also, a little bit unfair when you've got a big mech-looking thing looking all fancy against a rideable Earth.
Against a rideable Earth, indeed. Just having another look down the M3 lineup here. Another issue I'm going to flag here, of course, is that we're going to see at least a 4-1 split at one point. That's just how Zed works. Where's the wave clear going to come from? It's only really Corki that can attempt to clear waves here. Na is going to be a bit of help, especially in the Mega Na form, but there's a couple of questions as to how exactly M3's comp's going to come together. But I mean, it's Dade on Zed, so although we're entertained, it'll be interesting to see if they can actually fit it into a winning team fight comp. As wow, just the Q does so much damage to level 2 Annie.
Level 2 Annie versus level 4 Xuen on this Lee Sin.
Chuan and PYL still hanging around, playing very, very aggressively here. They're pretty much saying, hey guys, this red side of your jungle, it's us.
Yeah, it certainly is. And PYL actually roaming incredibly early in this game. Barely been in the lane at all. And this is something that he really loves to do. Make sure that he has entire vision control in the early game so that LGD can do precisely what they want.
And it was why I was so surprised in the EDG series, which LGD lost 2-0 to yesterday, is that PYL was kind of muted in that series. Some of his roams didn't come off. He was in the wrong position and lane at times and allowed Imp to kind of die for free. And their vision in general, which has been the core tenet of their victories, those 4 victories they've taken so far, LGD, their vision's been immaculate, probably the best in the LPL. And it just all fell away when they were losing. So I guess the only question I'll raise at LGD, as we see Candy going so aggressively in the top lane, is what does LGD look like when they're behind?
Yeah, and Dade coming through here, PYL being forced to use that flash. Dade using the Living Shadow to get over the edge. You're going to get Chilling Smited for his trouble as the Shuriken does go wide. But Loveless, Dade's found himself in an interesting position. There's a Death Mark to come through. Petrifying Gaze comes down, goes back to his original Shadow, but look at the Sonic Wave at exactly the right spot. Holding onto it beautifully does Xuen. Starts up the Dragon, but it bites off almost a quarter of his health.
But while I love the smooth moves from Dade, why did he ever take the first Shadow over the Rift? He was in no need to go aggressive. Went full aggressive there, tried to use all his different Shadows and juking abilities, but he was in a position that he never needed to be in.
He wasn't, and just made himself feel a little bit uncomfortable, and it was just a nice movement around the map by LGD as well. All of the members supporting one another, and I guess it's just obvious it's going to happen. Imp not even needing his spell shield because he's got such sweet footwork.
Both these supports are so malnourished here, Atlas. Level 3 and level 3 right here. Just no fun for the supports.
It isn't, but they've got some sweet vision.
And they've got some strong friends next to them too. Level 7 imp hits already.
Yeah, Lupa doing some brilliant boomerang catching, but that's the wrong boomerang. As we head back to the top lane, and Candy actually is going to be doing a lot of damage to this turret. Acorn going to head back to base, and this wave probably going to crash in here because, of course, a lot of wave clear available, and Love City now here as well to offer his ranged auto attacks against this turret as that cannon creep is missed. Schwen going to take down his red buff, and Ruo just hanging out. It's going to be a bit of a struggle to try and take this one.
You'll never see Acorn trying too hard to hold on to objective he knows he's lost. That's kind of his standard being. He understands working with his limited resources, but right now it's not actually that limited as we see M3 in quite an aggressive position.
They are. We can see actually in the top lane, very aggressive play. The Phosphorus Bomb comes down, and Acorn, that was an odd equalizer.
It was an odd equalizer there. The Rumble Guard, you know, even guards can fall sometimes. Yeah, it just falls away. He was sitting on a bevy of gold. He had about 2,300 gold. So it does start up that, you know, cost-effective magic penetration. And maybe they can translate all that pressure in the top lane into the first objective of the game.
Yeah, Schwen actually hanging out with PYL, who does have the shields here. Hellingale to come across, and Wayless is here to offer a lot of consistent damage, especially with that blue buff available. And look at these Twin Fans just tearing that dragon apart. It was there for a sec, now it's gone. And easily securing that objective. Lupa hanging out here in the bottom lane, trying to get the farm that he can.
You quickly forget just how much damage Cassiopeia does to neutral objectives like Baron and Dragon.
Yeah.
You can leave your AD carry in lane, leave them showing so the enemy says, oh, they'll never be doing Dragon. Nope, it's just Cassiopeia burning it down.
Not to mention the fact that Wayless is farming monstrously well on this Cassiopeia as well. Almost has the Rod of Ages available. Bilgewater Cutlass has been completed here by Dade, but see whether Wayless is going to be at all frightened by this Zed, because he's already died once, and a little bit of an uncomfortable situation as M3 doing some funny business here in the bottom side of the map. 4 members, actually.
That's just rude.
Yeah. See whether Imp has the fast spell shield available for all of the abilities that are going to come down onto his face.
Spell shield, huh?
Yeah. Oh, value in that boomerang.
And it's both player intuition and just the reality of, hey, we've got a lot of wards on this map. Where is everyone? You can see there from the on-hit health indicators that Cassiopeia has already unlocked part of her passive. She's able to get the on-hit healing.
Yep. And once you have that as well, you just have so much sustain in that lane because you can throw out these E's so quickly.
It's the 5% extra bonus AP, and I believe 10 on hit, which scales. So that's the first you unlock of Cassiopeia's scaling passive. So low is this turret down bot.
Yeah, and that's actually going to be on the hunt popped here as Imp's very low on mana. It's very slow-moving auto attackers. Here's the equalizer as well. The roam from Acorn to come down does get himself a heal for his trouble, but Wayless is around the side as well. Everyone collapsing on this bottom side. Dade may be caught out just a little bit, but no, it's going to be Wayless who gets a petrifying gaze. Ruo takes a lot of damage, but Dade finally finishes him off as the Flame Spit is burning him down. Ruo's going to die at the same time. It's a decent stun to come through as Candy's going to pick up Acorn, and Schwen now going to get rocketed to the faces. Imp and PYL just going to run away.
A 3-for-2 in a 4v5 was excellent play and might not be over yet.
Yeah, Dade taking a lot of damage from Imp. Oh my goodness, and the solo kill at about similar health regions. Beautifully done, and Imp with the spell shield fingers.
Spell shields are really, really quick here today for Imp. His Civ is looking very practiced, and this was all with the split pushing Gnar the whole time, and even engage. M3 will be really happy with that, but let's see the replay. So we're watching here, Wayless basically gets caught with his pants down here, takes so much burst damage, is able to apply the Petrifying Gaze, but only to Jarvan, who basically instant dies for his trouble right there. And in this extended fight, you think M3 is going to lose and disengage just because they don't have Gnar, but they go in so aggressively. Acorn has exploded. Schwen is too aggressive down there, and that should be the end of fight. That should be a 3-for-2 in a 4v5, but of course, look how aggressive Imp is. Walks into ward, doesn't have any cares in the world, picks up an easy kill.
An easy kill, and did have that heal available as well, so manages to bait Dade out just a little bit. Of course, most of his big cooldowns were down. Does have that Blade of the Ruined King available now, though, so going to have a little bit more burst in his arsenal. TBQ going to clear out the Scuttlecraft.
And you got Nah here, who's, you know, he hasn't really seen anything. Everyone else has seen quite the war on this map, but Loop is just like, hey guys, I was over here.
I was over here, just hanging out, making cute little sounds in the top lane, throwing boomerangs and stuff like that.
Just wait till the houses start coming out, Atlas.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Get excited about those houses. Way less, as we saw demonstrated before, lots of damage on these neutral objectives, and it's going to be taken by Xuen easily. And Ruo just doesn't have a jungle this game.
No, and Ruo's always so focused on snowballing those solo lanes. Hasn't really had the chance to snowball too much. Does have the 3 assists, but it's all been candy. And it's all been candy this weekend as well. Whenever we talk about M3, your eyes just gravitate towards Dade and Loop, but that's just the reality of the star power they have on this team. But Candy, the really unfashionable AD carry, was actually expected to be the sub player for this team to SMLZ, their previous AD carry on World Elite Academy. It's been really, really impressive.
Certainly has. Oh, Dade going to pick up the blue buff. Thankfully, the last buff available for M3 in their jungle. Almost had the second one taken away as well, as Boomerang Blade does decent damage to Looper here in the top side of the map. Double Doran's Blade being picked up here by Looper, so he's feeling the pressure. He's
feeling the pressure. I imagine he's sitting on a bit of gold right here, 830, so he probably wants to start getting cost-effective tankiness before this next Dragon in a minute 30. Will they contest a Dragon against Rumble, Cassiopeia, Sivir, though? That sounds a bit like a death wish.
That does not sound like a lot of fun at all, with a lot of damage available to come across the top. And you can imagine an Aegis is going to be necessary for M3 if they ever want to team fight in this game, ever.
And there's a Ruby Crystal finished on Ruo right now. It's probably going to be a Sightstone, but I think the Aegis is the top priority here. It's hard to rush, especially as a jungler with that limited income, but my goodness gracious, the AoE magic damage is something to talk about.
It's just silly, and Petrifying Gaze can be such a team fight turnaround ability as well. As we see, Wayless is just getting stack after stack on that passive. Really leveling up here, and Cassiopeia has just turned into a hyper carry mid laner as well. Now that that change has come through, you just have so much potential in that late game that this Cassiopeia that's free farming at this stage of the game is just going to get more and more terrifying.
But what we saw in that other series that I keep mentioning about is that is the one thing about Cassiopeia is that her chase damage, unbelievable. Especially once you get the right allies, you chase down, your consistent damage to a single target is like just hard to describe how strong that is. Ludicrous. But in a team fight, you can be exploded even if you stack all that health, and you might find it hard to keep the poison up. And if you ever drop one of your E abilities,
yes,
if you ever let it drop and the cooldown starts, you lose so much damage.
Right, Wayla's going to pick up the blue buff, and they're going to head back to this dragon again. LGD looking to pick up their second one. Ruo's going to get spotted out in this brush here, where they do have a pink ward. The dragon going to follow LGD around this map. Really, really just wants to have a chat to them about something important. As M3, they're going to go in. It's a beautiful Howling Gale to stop Ruo's engage. The flash shivers onto Imp and Wayless. That's the two carries, but he just dies instantly. Acorn with a double kill out of nowhere. And PYL, oh, that house almost hitting him. And Candy coming in for the cleanup. You can see so many low health bars as Imp picks up Dade in the backside. Boomerang Blade to come through. Candy and Looper trying to get out of this one. Sonic Wave only just misses here. The Dragon did go down in amongst that, though, and it went to LGD.
And this is why you don't fight against this particular team in the mid game. I mean, Rumble is enough to usually signal, hey, stay away from the Dragon, guys. But Rumble, Sivir, Cassiopeia is unbelievable pressure around those neutral objectives in the mid game. Opting into such a fight for M3, questionable at best.
Yeah, and the explosion that Love City copped there as well. Managed to get a nice Tibbers down on 2 carries, and then his health bar was just forfeit.
Well, I mean, with just a Sightstone against that much AoE magic damage,
Silly.
No Aegis in sight, although, to be fair, to Ruo's credit, you can see he's really thinking about an Aegis, at least I hope he is, with his bevy of Ruby Crystals and no Magic Mantle. He's pretty much saying, hey guys, I really want to finish this item, but you look at the sideways here, this is the one part I'm worrying about, is that, you know, we were talking about who will split against Dade. It's not going to be Acorn. Like, he can play safely for now, and Dade has actually started to complete his items. He has to play the Ruined King and the Brutalizer. That's, of course, the start of the pain coming out of his Zed. But from the cloth armor and the amp tome, you have to think Zhonya's coming, at least eventually, for Akon.
Yeah, I believe. Wouldn't be surprised if that was his next pickup here. And do you think once that item comes through, of course, fantastic against a Zed and that death mark in particular, do you think that that will allow him to possibly make some work happen as Imp does find Lupa?
It's serviceable, but up top, Lupa's in trouble.
Yeah, Schwen actually, ooh, the flash out of the way of that Sonic Wave. Not even sure whether he knew that that was coming through, but it was a brilliant flash nonetheless.
I mean, the bane of Rumble's existence is that he just can't push minions. It's something that he struggles with his standard build paths here. He's very slow to push, and of course, it's going to be instant push coming out from Dade's Roar.
Ooh, misses the flag and drag here. As there's the Sonic Wave resonating strike. Oh, the kick, the follow afterwards, but Schwen, slight miscalculation on that one and pays for it after using the Summoner spell.
I don't see... That was just needless aggression coming out from Trent, just because of that trade, you get a kill and 2 assists for a solo kill. It's definitely not a value trade for M3 right there. It definitely is a value trade for M3 right there, and it hurts LGD. So overly aggressive there, using his flash on Lee Sin. It's down for potential Lee Sin kick initiate. Questionable play from Twen.
Yeah, but I guess in the end, both junglers losing their summoner spells and losing their lives, so even-ish. But we do have 1,000 gold lead here for LGD, and of course 2 dragons as well to go on top of that. So M3 looking to pick up that objective as soon as they possibly can to get those 6% stats. And the blue buff is going to go over to M3 here as well, as Dade split pushing in this bottom side of the map picks up the outer turret.
Not the first or last time we will mention Dade split pushing, just because look at this, the needlessly large rod is picked up by Akon right here. I mean, the next Rumble Equalizer is going to do so much damage, just a hair's breadth away from level 11 as well. Team fighting against LGD right now is literally not an option.
It isn't, but one saving grace is the fact that Lupa, out of nowhere, has a huge CS advantage up on Akon, who's been working around this map at 144 CS on this Gnar. So he's looking to level up and help them out in these late game team fights if he can.
And if you tab over to the gold here, so much unspent gold. Lupa's actually just gone and spent. There was 1,500 or more on both the carries of M3 right here. So you have to think some massive power spikes coming right in here, but they have to be careful not to fight before they've spent, because although they're 400 gold down, with so much gold in the bank, they're actually a lot of combat stats down on LGD.
Yeah, one really important purchase is Ruo has finished that Aegis of the Legion. So they're going to have a little bit more magic resistance for the whole team. They're hanging around that J4.
An excellent part-time for that item, you have to say. They really did recognize how important it was in this case. And that extra 20 magic is going to make all the difference in a team fight.
Yeah, Will Lupa also picking up his first bout of armor, has that Ninja Tabi and the Warden's Mail now completed. Going towards that Randuin's Omen as soon as he can. Recognizes that Imp is starting to really build the damage as that Static Shiv Infinity Edge combination has been completed.
You see Corki's kind of anchored to the mid lane here, of course, has the Sorcerer's Shoes, has the Trinity Force, even has a BF Sword on top of it. They really want to take this last outer turret, does M3 right here, but so risky to do so, and some very good wave clear on the side of LGD between Wayless and Imp.
Yeah, Ruin Love City hanging around out the side. Distortion Annie for Love City, so wants to have Flash Tivers up as often as humanly possible.
The Tabe flavor.
Oh yeah. Definitely a good idea, and I really love M3's defensive warding as well. They've got pinks throughout their jungle. They know, okay, we're struggling here at this stage of the game. Let's consolidate, make sure that we know where LGD are so that they can't strangle us out of our own jungle.
The only thing they need to add is a bit more aggressive warding on the blue side of LGD, just to give Dade a bit of a chance to go in there aggressively, because of course it's very hard to split push if you have zero vision in the enemy's blue side area.
Especially if you're unable to put pressure on other points in this map, as Candy going to blow up these minions in the mid lane and going to continue to stretch his CS lead. And this is something we haven't really spoken about. We've spoken about how good Candy is, but not necessarily in this game. 5-0-1 on this Corki sort of out of nowhere. They haven't been doing that well, but he's been picking up the kills. Has the Infinity Edge now and the Trinity Force, and you have to think that if he can get here in time, which doesn't look like he can as Lupa comes in, doesn't have Mega Gnar form available, takes a lot of damage. There's an equalizer in a beautiful spot. Lupa, is he going to be able to turn large in time? He is by the looks of things. They're trying to turn around Akon with a wonderful golden flamethrower impression. But Tibbers does get caught by the Petrifying Gaze, but he's the only one. Candy now gets exhausted, but finally can get some damage down, and this could be M3's time. There's a Gnar, but it's only on Acorn there as the Monsoon comes in, and so many low health bars. Wayless does take down Love City in the end, and this could be them turning on the heat. Ruo falls down. Wayless picks up that kill, and LGD now finally turning it on its head.
It is unbelievable that it took about 25 seconds of that fight for the first person to fall, because that was a heroic equalizer from Acorn. It completely stopped any sort of engage, forced a very narrow retreat from M3, and he went in, flashed in aggressively onto Dice, so much damage onto him. They pick up 2 kills, could have been more for LGD. Excellent use of power spikes by LGD.
Yeah, absolutely wonderful, and they knew that Candy had gone back as well, so that Corki that had the majority of their damage not available for that fight, and beautifully well done. And the third dragon now going down for LGD. And more importantly, no dragons here for M3 as well, as they're going to take down that Gromp, and Wayless going to go back and spend a lot of his gold. Has stretched that gold lead by a long way. 2.4 thousand gold in his back pocket. And you can see he's up by so much. 1,500 gold at this point in the game. Pretty silly.
He's abandoning the Rylai's third here, going for just sheer damage with the needlessly large rod. And look at that, the Seraph's transformation, just as we're talking about it. His tankiness there, his implied tankiness is massive. He probably has about a 3,000 health pool right there. And just LGD playing very well in a lot of lanes right here. But I love the really aggressive build coming out from Corki right here. A snowball Trinity Force into Infinity Edge is a massive amount of burst damage. If anyone face checks this Corki and there's a bit of CC, perhaps from Ruo coming out, they're going to die.
Yep, and having that against the potential consistent damage of this Cassiopeia is really handy, because if she can get deleted, things are going to go well. But they lose another blue buff.
Do like the aggressive warding coming out of LGD, more so on the red side here. They're trying to push towards the blue side, but of course a very nice defensive pink ward stopping that. But LGD, you know what they want to do. They're always have very clear goals when they're ahead. They want to strangle Vision as much as possible and take every advantage they can get. Dade's in trouble.
Yeah, he's actually popped that death mark onto Wayless there as well. Gets kicked out of the fight, which has worked out for him. Equalizer just splitting up the team of M3 here, and Ruo gets taken out by that Monsoon. Looper, though, finishes off Wayless. Things could turn around now as Acorn turns golden. Will he die, though? That's the question. Candy has so much damage. Look at those rockets. Acorn's still coming in, but you have to think that he might die, and Imp just gets exploded. You were talking about burst potential, and there it is.
There was a reason that Dade went aggressive there, because he knows that Imp was not grouped. Once Imp came, he basically baited himself into death, instantly exploding right there. A very poor positional play and decision-making from Imp. They'll lose 2 turrets for this.
They will, and that was just that Aegis of the Legion as well, now transformed into the Locket of the Iron Solari. Peruo working out so well for his team. Schwen limping away from that fight and picking up, that was 2 turrets, I believe. And
it was in that series yesterday against EDG that Imp got picked on. But we'll go first to this replay here. Dade's playing aggressively, but look who's alone at the top. It's Imp, of course, here. So during this fight, a lot of damage comes down. Wayless is living due to this Janna ultimate, but will eventually fall down here. And it looks like, okay, 1 kill, that's fine, not a big deal. That's just the result you have from Imp not being good. But look, Imp goes in here aggressively, instantly dies to Ruo's flag and drag combo right there. Very, very poor decision-making coming from Imp, and an excellent re-engage from Ruo.
Absolutely wonderful. And the other thing I'd like to mention is they had a very cute combination with that Cataclysm and Gnar ultimate. Looper just jumped into the middle of that Cataclysm and just smashed those 2 carries into the wall. Acorn and Wayless, there was nothing they could do, so just stunned up, and then Wayless was obliterated. And you were talking about the fact that it's dangerous to be this Cassiopeia because you are so susceptible to being instantly burst down, and we saw exactly how dangerous that is.
She's deceptively low range as Cassiopeia. Again, she's best in those chase scenarios or those 1v1 scenarios, but in a team fight, the chance for dropping your poison or the chance of missing that ultimate, it's such a fickle skill shot, is massive.
Imp has completed the last Whisper here, as well as Candy, both of them sitting on 3 items, although Trinity Force, you have to say, probably worth a little bit more than that Static Shiv to especially a Corki.
That's just so much. I mean, the burst that came onto a Chuen when he Valkyrie'd in right there before, he did about 700 damage burst with a Phosphorus Bomb and an auto crit. So it's
just silly.
It's silly damage. I mean, we saw this same build coming out of SDYZ for World Elite when they were losing, and it did nothing just because he was so many items behind. But when you have a Snowball Infinity Edge on top of your Trinity Force, there's mid-game power spikes, and then there's this mid-game power spike where you're deleting people.
Certainly are, and we have the pickaxe completed now for Dade as well. He's going towards that last Whisper where really that's going to be a lot of his damage potential already completed here on this Zed, and not many people are going to be able to go against him. As Imp's trying to split push, you see Siva just tearing these waves apart.
See, Akon also has picked up the Distortion Boost here just for a bit more cooldown reduction on both the Flash and the Teleport. It's a nice little pickup right there. Up the top lane, Nas pushing in very aggressively. You have to think Akon's going to match that, but of course it is the potential for the 4th Dragon coming out here from LGD. So definitely going to have differing priorities right here as they try and start the march towards that timer, that 5th Dragon buff.
Yeah, and you can see the Dragon just hopping up on the wall there. He has respawned.
Dade's dead.
Yeah, Dade was just killed by Imp. They're on the bottom side of the map. Not entirely sure how that happened, but it's going to mean that LGD are going to have definite chance on this Dragon. Ruo with a heroic effort to try and come in and steal, but of course it's very difficult to take that away from a Resonating Strike Smite. And it's going to be the 4th Dragon now taken for LGD, and they can threaten now with the possibility of a 5th, which is just ridiculous.
That's the second time that a Korean player has really been caught with their pants down right here, of course.
Yeah.
It was first Imp dying instantly for LGD, and then Dade, I think he was just overconfident against Imp right there. He even has his death mark still available, died in a burst of about 4 autos.
Really, really silly. But LGD looking at the Baron, but deciding, no, that guy hurts us a lot. So let's go back. You're going to go back and buy, of course. The rest of M3 are posturing together as Dade tries to find his way back to his team. And M3 now have a chance to clear out some vision around this Baron.
A lot of big item pickups on the LGD side, but look at the gold difference. It's 0. It's 100 gold maybe, and we try and tab over the gold to see why that is. It's really equal all across the board. The big advantage is in the mid lane. Cassiopeia about 1,600 gold ahead of Dade, and it's Corki being ahead of this Siva. And in terms of items, though, they're pretty equal. Big pickup here. It is the completed QSS for Siva. Running out of ult targets is Dade here. Who can he realistically ult? Chuen, maybe?
Yeah, Chuen potentially. Of course, there's just Zhonya's Hourglasses and Mikhail's Crucibles. All sorts of things across this team. You can see once you get to this point of the game as Zed, life becomes quite difficult.
It's anticlimactic when the question of who will split against Dade is anyone.
It most certainly is. Especially when that answer was provided for us by Imp.
It wasn't on my list of choices, by the way, when it was who can split against Dade. But yeah, he's really struggling. His target selection in teamfight will have to be immaculate. And look, he's done that sort of thing before. We've seen teamfight Zed play from Dade to blow anyone's mind. He kind of dispelled that myth that it's split push only for Zed, but he's going to have to be on top form right here.
He certainly is. Really turned this one around as Imp was actually waiting in the brush, sort of doing what Dade would want to be doing on that Zed, waiting for a potential assassination on a Siva.
Uses ult on PYL. That gets him low, but no dice.
Yeah, PYL going to be forced to head back, potentially. He is going to recall. And Imp going to recall down in this bottom side of the map as well. So a bit of a reset to come through here. And these pink wards for M3 have been alive for so long.
One thing I want to see LGD do is to work on this side wave manipulation a little bit here. They've never really had a strong amount of minions pushing in. We do see it's going to be cold by Nara in the bottom lane, so they do have a bit of a push going there. In the top lane, it's pretty even. I believe it will just be pushing in their favor, but maybe a more substantial minion push can allow them to open up new objectives. You might say, well, they don't need any. You know, they're on the 5th Dragon. But if they can create pressure in the top lane to really ensure that it's a false choice between losing their top inhibitor and contesting the 5th Dragon, that'd be massive for LGD if they want to close out this game.
Yeah, it would be huge. And we were talking about the fact that this gold is so similar. It does not feel like that in this game. It feels like LGD have complete and utter control.
Well, once you start getting to 50k gold, that's 6%. You know, the importance of the 6%. That's basically a 6% gold lead coming out, which is, you know, something that you can't really factor in. It's definitely not factored in the gold number, but it's it's a massive spike. And if it gets to the 12%, it'd be even bigger. Chuen, he's in trouble.
He is. He's going to get stunned up here. Tibbers comes down as well, but the hero both teleports. The Cataclysm to come through. 2 flashes going to be used, and Acorn teleports in and flashes out immediately.
Absolutely. Chuen baits out Acorn's flash as well there, which is very important in a team fight. A deceptive amount of melee range damage from that Flame Spitter comes out once you get to late game Rumble, which of course we are approaching here. Not sure if it's going to be the Void Staff or, of course, the Rylai's coming out from Acorn. Acorn is still one of the Rumble players that likes to pick up Rylai's where possible. But 2 flashes for 1, pretty good deal.
Certainly take it if you're M3. And now with a teleport, sort of equalization here. As Lupa, known to be able to roam around relatively effectively, finds himself with his team, although only on 1-0-1 at this stage. Has finished that Thornmail, though.
Acorn still most of a level away from 16. Of course, the last big power spike to come out from Acorn will be that Void Staff, the eventual Void Staff, and level 16. LGD, they're looking to saunter around and steal a red buff here. But in general, it's basically been Dragon. That's been their core tenet this whole game. It's been monopolizing Dragon. They picked for it Sivir, Cassiopeia, Rumble. Amazing champions for controlling Dragon. And they've capitalized that. And the one thing that's been neutered completely is Dade split push. 144 is Dade. 100 CS or so behind his lane opponent, and no real ability to get a side lane push. In fact, no real target selection available to Dade at this point. It's been a struggle for that star mid laner. Yeah,
just nothing that Dade can do. It's going to be on the rest of his team in order to get this game going, and we're looking at Candy for that one because he's the only one that's had an advantage in this game, really. I mean, you could say Lupa with his huge CS advantage and the fact that he hasn't died, but having a tank that hasn't died, not really something that you want.
I mean, Loop has kind of been a passenger this game, which sounds like I'm being negative on him, but he just hasn't really been involved. I mean, he's been involved in 2 out of the 20 kills in this game, and basically he's been involved in 2 out of his team's 8 kills. So he's just been basically a non-factor right here. Hasn't died, but he needs to get in the thick of it with a really big ultimate if M3 want to win a fight.
Yeah, but of course we do know how impactful that Nara ultimate can be, so there's definitely time for that to come through. It's not like anything has been decided at this stage of the game, especially considering the fact that the gold is teetering between a 100 gold lead in either way, as M3 have now got position on this dragon as it spawns, and it's going to be so important to prevent that 4th dragon and to complete that 6% extra stat boost.
All the important summoners are up here. In fact, all summoners but Acorns and Chuen's available.
This
There's
could be
the equalizer.
A 50-50. He manages to get it. The 5th dragon's now locked down. Petrifying Gaze by so much damage. It is going to be the Gnar to come through, and LGD's health bars are going very low, but Lupa's going to die. Acorn secures that kill. Flashes across the board, and 3 people just dead out of nowhere, and Dade and Candy flashing red.
And Wayless, he's got health. 1E, and that's the death for Corki. And the most even one-sided game of all time starts to push towards a climax right here. You have to think they're going to go for some structures.
They definitely are, and look, Imp just burning up here. You can see he decides to tank the turret just because he looks so damn cool on this Sivir, now on fire as well. And this 5th dragon buff just makes you so huge, and they just want to complement that with a Baron as well.
It's just a crazy thing to talk about how they're getting 12% more stats for every purchase. That's basically you pay for 40 AP, you get 45. You're getting free gold efficiency on every purchase you make. They pick up the Baron as well. And there's not really much of anything I can say for M3 right here. I have no idea how they can get back into this game.
Yeah, and Imp is just running through these towers like a wrecking ball as well. Took down the inner turret in the bottom lane and the inner turret in the mid lane as well. He's just running through, destroying these structures on this Sivir. Bloodthirster has been finished by Candy here, so it's a decent pickup. But as you mentioned, I just don't see what they can do. Mercurial's Scimitar was picked up by Imp. Decides instead, no, I prefer a Bloodthirster just outright.
There's a bit more of that damage. I can get behind that. That's a good pickup right there. It's
Most definitely.
It's been a crazy game. The fact that the gold has been so even for so long is just unconscionable to me. And
the fact that Imp was also sitting on 3.2 thousand gold.
I mean, once that 5th dragon came down, you just knew they were going to wreck the team fight there.
Oh,
it's intimidating just seeing everyone on fire, I have to say.
It's like everyone gets a free Sunfire cape or something, and you're wondering why they're not aggroing jungle camps.
I mean, a Sunfire cape pales in comparison to true damage on every auto and single target spell. And of course, all the stats and bonuses they're giving, double bonuses. They're doing so much damage to structure, 30% extra bonuses to structures.
Oh my goodness, look at that burn to come through from Imp. That was silly. We've got the teleport to come through here as well, so the Baroned up minions are going to be immune for a little moment as Acorn gets the equalizer out here as well. Looper goes down so low, and Acorn, he just turns the switch on. Candy just gets obliterated. Looper now trying to run away, but look at the flames coming from Acorn. They're just chasing them out of their own base, and this game went from even to complete slaughter so quickly.
It was those neutrals that tipped it over. They picked a dragon-taking team. They got them. The surrender comes through, and GG, well played to LGD.
And a game that looked so on the wire just came down to all of those dragons that LGD had so much control over. What beautiful execution, and Wayless coming through with this Cassiopeia pick, which I'd have to say shut down Dade almost completely, especially considering that early snowball.
And when you play one of those unconventional picks and lose, the last thing the enemy team's going to expect is to pick it up again the next day and try it again. And it worked a total treat right here. We have a replay to kind of see some of the power that we saw through LGD right here.